Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting, riveting, and amazing Propagandacast from your host, Imperial Dane, the one, the only master propaganda hero, like defender of the fatherland. Off here to a 1v1. On Crossroads in the north is Suora, fighting for the Red Army of the Soviet Union, Comrade Stalin, and the 15th Tank Corps here with Guard Motor, featuring the T-35M5, heavy mortars, Guards Rifle Infantry, vehicle crew repair training, and marked vehicle. In the south it is Littlesam, fighting for the Wehrmacht, Germany, Deutschland. Here taking on the role of the 1st Panzer Division with Spearhead, Jaeger Infantry, and elite troops. MD-42 Grenadiers start most likely for Littlesam here, versus double conscripts for Swara. And as always, a big hearty thanks to my Patreon supporters, champions, and heroes, one and all. Without them, this episode and so many others would not be possible. So, big thanks to all of those. Other people can join the heroic ranks and consider supporting the Warfare as well by pledging on Patreon, or they can donate via PayPal, links in the description. And in that regard, big thanks to maybe me for donating and supporting the Propagandacast with his hard-earned money. And finally, commenting, liking, sharing, subscribing is another way to help the Propagandacast spread the word a bit there via the YouTube algorithms, which really want you to show engagement. Yeah. Anyways, 3rd conscript there for Swara. Standard stuff here, pushing eastwards there. Primary force for Swara in the west, looking with some sandbags, very good there. Engineers ground points here. 3rd conscript there for Swara and the Red Army. Barbed wire here. 2nd Grenadier Squad there for Littlesam. Machine ground points in the south. Grenadier Squad heading westwards there. With the venerable Kar-90K bolt action rifle. The K standing for Kurz, or no, actually not Kurz, but Karabiner. That wasn't really a carbine. It's just because they made it shorter than the Gewehr 98, which was basically, the World War I era bolt action rifle, which was quite big. So, fun fact there. Anyways, going up in the centre here, conscripting forts there for Swara. 2nd Engineer Squad, standard build order there. In particular, want to go for Guardsmen or any other calling infantry in the Soviet forces. Sandbags up here, pushing westwards to the Grenadiers here, skirmishing there. Catching their Swara's frontal licks as they try to lean on sandbags. So, first shots fired here. About 2 minutes of the game. Eastern pumping ceased here. Skirmishing happening quietly. 3rd Grenadier Squad there for Littlesam. Of course, have to see what follows up here for Littlesam and the Germans. Probably some tech here. Commander-wise, there's certainly a few choices. There's certain emphasis on G33s, for example. But there you go, Swara hitting the conscript, particularly because Littlesam did leave them without support the MD-42. So they're already 3 versus 2, which is definitely favourable there for Swara. It's a bit trickier there for Littlesam. We got the 3rd Grenadier Squad arriving here. No tech yet for Littlesam. Perhaps he's not planning to go immediately for tech there, but instead planning maybe a 4th Grenadier Squad here. Jürgen drops dead. Not a great spot there for Littlesam to be in. He's forced to retreat here. Again, the dangers of ensuring his Grenadiers are not supported by an MD-42. Whoops, sorry about that. Conscripting towards western point hitting in sandbags. You can see the Swara is quite keenly aware, of course, the power of the sandbags have for the Soviets. It's a very powerful ability. They just lay down sandbags more or less immediately with your basic infantry. And not only that, but these are quite wide sandbags compared to the average sandbags most other factions lay down. These are basically 2 times, maybe 3 times the length of that. So those are really good. So you could just, lay down that much more sandbag for base at the same time on your first, basic infantry squad. Coming up against the Pioneers, seems to be careful. Then he's bringing up here, skirmish to the west as well. Pioneers pushed off. Tech on the way there for Littlesam. So definitely up to a rough start there again. It doesn't help the count really not getting his machine gun into a good position versus Swara either, because again, he didn't have the infantry screen around for it. So bit of a tricky spot here, but there you go. Could fire a rifle grenade here. I would probably suggest firing at the one bit behind here. Maybe hope to bait them into retreating into that. And well, it didn't quite go for it, but still got some damage in. And as you can see, the machine gun is trying to keep pace. Again, the terrain here is not suited for it, and he just lacks some way of getting in there. Surprise Swara is not merging. Oh, there we go. Merging the conscript engineers. Another, shall we say, advantage for the Soviets in the early game. They can get their flamethrower team sort of immediately reinforced by just merging with it. Another sort of tactical advantage that the Soviets can leverage in the hands of a skilled player. So good work here by Swara so far versus Littlesam. I'd like to make a nice company on the way. Ground lost and pump with the Grenadier. Another squad moving forwards there. But the concern about the flamethrower. Hitting the car point here. Good maneuver there by Swara. Again, forces Littlesam to focus more on his own territories than pushing ahead into Littlesam or Swara's territories. Support company up there. Medics up. And I like to make a nice company. We'll definitely be seeing an armoured car from Littlesam. He could have surprised with the 22 or 251 with the flamethrower upgrade, but in most cases, you know, 9 times out of 10 they will go for the 222. As it is overall less expensive and just also quite fair to go up as infantry rolls out of the enemy vehicles, which is how it typically wins over the flamethrower half track. Grab the centre here, instead of advancing, machine gun on a better position. He could even consider advancing forwards here, though he may want to then lay down some mines and sandbar wire there to make it a bit harder to assail for the Soviets. You can, like, you know, try and honestly, in fact, probably should do that again. It's like move up here and then try and push for the car point, disrupt his opponent's economy. Definitely not a huge fan of leaving the machine gun so far behind already, in a sense they're already under defensive. Again, very much early game, you really want to get that machine gun in the swinging to support your troops if possible, unless you're really on the defense. But so far, Swara a Littlesam is on the offense, so you really need to get that machine gun swinging on the offense as well here. Definitely feel like that's a slight tactical error there by Littlesam, personally. Light machines up there, armoured car sitting out there, conscript being mowed down, out in not quite the open. But certainly a bit of terrible places there, right next to an outhouse. Yuri, please tell my wife I did not die near a shithouse, please. Don't worry, Yuri. I will tell him you died heroically in the ruins of Berlin. T-70 on the way there for Swara. Very much expected. Littlesam will need a Pack 40 out here. He could also go for more armoured cars, but that one is definitely a bit of a trickier counter. Panzer going to deal with the Panzerschreck wise. Obviously a bit short on munitions for that. And if it's not quite as placed, he's going to have a struggle making it work anyway. So yeah, Pack 40 there for Littlesam, just under the current circumstances, I think optimal anyways. Commander-wise, we're still not seeing anything out for Littlesam. Swara will probably fill up with the Guard Squad after the T-70 here. Got flamethrower pioneers, clearly confident here that Swara will not be laying down mines against them, and so far that very much seems to be holding true. So good work there. Littlesam by control both fuel points, definitely able to turn around the game this swiftly. But now the T-70 is arriving there. Littlesam doesn't need mines. Doesn't need... Yeah, Pack 40's not ready. He's got, you know, very little there to really slow down a rampaging T-70. Good move the armoured car up with the conscripts there, and again the machine now falling back as the front end crumbles. Medics on the way there. Pack 40 out. Bit slow to move on the fuel point, I think, but still, definitely got a bit of fuel lead here over Swara now. Though of course the T-70 can quickly change that. Contra with the armoured car. We got demo charge here for Swara. The T-70 is basically the Soviets combining the T-50 and the T-60 tank programs to, well, streamline them into one tank, while they were basically moving all the production lines for the other tanks, you know, further away from the German front, or the front lines where the Germans were advancing. And so they basically just came up with the T-60, which or T-70, which combines, you know, the hull of the T-60, I think, with the gun of the T-50, basically. And the turret as well, I think. It's a little fun fact. It wasn't a great tank. It was also, in fact, apparently more expensive than the T-34-6, but it was just a matter of, like, they had to produce something while they're, you know, getting their production line set up elsewhere. Hey, more tactic for Swara. Did go for that instead of the Guard Squad. Mild surprise, but not huge. More tactic for Littlesam. Not a bad idea either, in particular on a map like Crossroads. Mortars tend to be, I think, a very good priority there to consider. Demo charts there, of course, not a problem. And certainly a map like Crossroads could also be a map where Panzer may in fact work out, because it can at times be difficult to packs to sort of really, like, you know, set up stuff. There's a lot of shot blockers, a lot of sharp corners, so holding the Panzer away there could be a way to, like, maybe slightly offset. But again, they are quite expensive and they do require you having the playstyle to really leverage them, I feel like, at times. But again, there's an argument to me that you might benefit more from Panzer than Pack 40s. Anyways, enough about that. No sign of tech here for Littlesam beyond that. Could go for some Panzer Grenadiers. Another mortar, another pack. Mortar fire going off here. Just trying to figure out who's firing where. Got the mortar, the 120mm mortar, which is a fun fact the Germans would copy and set up as the Grenadier for 43. I mean, they straight up copy the design fully. It's a little fun fact there. Constant flanking in here. Pushing eastwards there for the point next to the base. Decent rolling head here for Swara and the Red Army. Should be careful around to their own demo charge when there's a mortar going at. I mean, theoretically, the mortar could land a luck hits up the demo charge and give Suora a really, really bad day. Charging them before to constant flank in. The still armored card could deal with that. Molotov off there. Pioneers on the flank might spot the demo charge, but again, the way it's positioned is definitely to make it harder for Littlesam to notice it in the first place. Machine gun routed, but so the constant most, in fact, of Suora's forces there. The assault in the center didn't quite pan out. Could have laid down, for example, a smoke screen with a heavy mortar, for example. That would have been, I think, quite effective. But oh well. Guard squad out there for Suora. Can then equip course with the DPs. No take yet for Littlesam. No additional troops either. Panzerfaust and the T-7 light tank. Mine goes, or demo charge goes kaboom. This, who did actually manage to spot it, ruining little Suora's little surprise there. I'm sure leaving a few engineers teary-eyed. We just wanted to blow them up. Why did they have to just ruin everything? Oh, shut up, Yuri. You're a psychopath, you know that? What's so wrong with that? Everything. Unless, of course, you're part of the party, in which case, it's a very attractive trait to have. DP light machine for the guardsman. Machine force then, getting the grenadiers. There we go. Tech for Littlesam. Still got a manpower there floating about. No commander yet either for Littlesam. Longer this goes on, the longer this feels more like Spearhead. I mean, it could still be elite troops, but you just typically want to pick that one definitely sooner because it's a much more early game sort of front end commander, whereas this one is, allows you to always stall out for the big stuff late game. You're less punished for that and you look a little less silly. Because it just doesn't offer you a lot in the early game. I could have gone for still for a mortar half track maybe here versus Suora. I mean, that wouldn't be half bad if Littlesam either. But again, there's just, in a sense, less, offness there. So Telemine spotted, good work by Swara, and also good work by Littlesam actually mining. Thumbs up to that. MG42 on top of everything else there, not a bad idea though. Does slow down his take a bit, but nothing wrong with that. But he definitely needs to get the Spommer Cop then, and then push for some Panzers here versus Swara, who probably wants to pull for a mechanized armor company. Assume got sandbags here next to the opponent's sandbags. More sandbags here, getting very consistent work sandbagging. And those guys almost got wiped out with the combined flamethrower heavy mortar attack here by Suora and the Red Army. Slow response to the Eastern Fuel Panel being grabbed by Suora and the Red Army. Sis 3 Division Field Gun, obviously concerned about enemy Panzers. So very sensible play there by Suora, thumbs up to that. Bring in here. Not a great position because he can't flank through there south out because the sandbags there. So, he needs the mortar over here to assist swiftly. The problem is the mortar's all the way back here, so he can't easily break this position. Pioneer's routed, machine holding on the west. So right now, Littlesam losing a bit of ground here. Starting to break out there. Definitely need to get the Topoma Cup Schnell here before Suora just, I think, stops him out of the game here. Looking into make a push up the west side as all this happening here. Bit ambitious for Littlesam, bit ambitious. Not impossible, but definitely ambitious. As most of the troops back at base is still not taking up getting the build up there. Pack 40 can't started, the armored car gets knocked out. Really rough situation for Littlesam as Suora just adds more pressure. Need to get those troops moving there. Mach schnell, meine Herren. Mach schnell. Machine range statically up there. So right now, Suora's got both fuel points. In fact, got a good chunk of the map, meaning he's getting a hell of a fuel lead there now. We're basically talking 4 times as much fuel, more or less, as his opponent per minute, which is definitely something to spiral out control, and definitely also a feature there of the map here. It just has more points than average, meaning better map control and Crossroads can more easily spiral into a massive lead compared to on most other 1v1 maps. So, fun fact there. So Polmaka up there. Can push for the Panther 4. He could of course try and rush on Oswind. I don't necessarily think that'd be wrong, but Panther 4 is just a nice safe choice. Machine on the western fuel point here. Bit risky. Particularly since there's nothing to really cover up the retreat. Otherwise it could effectively be a very nice decoy, grabbing the fuel point with an MG42 that could look tasty there for Swara to rush in something with, but again, Okay, he's moving on troops to cover up the retreat. There's another machine gun and the Pioneer. It's not saying anti-tank weapon, which is kind of what I figured be there. Companies they're pushed out of their cover position, almost wiped out though. And down they go. Small winner for Littlesam and the German army. Need to grab the cop one again. Now the guard squad archers replace the lost conscripts. Very good. More DP-27s. They will later come up with the DPM light machine gun. And the M base is standing for modernized with some small upgrades there to overall improve performance. Little fun fact there. Moving up here. Keeping engaging the grenadiers. Route it. Point there grabbed. Route it though. Still, again, both fuel to control his front of Littlesam again, meaning he's going to get again a lot more fuel than his opponent. Central can't catch the mortar there. Doesn't quite wreck it. Pantomime machine almost done. Mechanized armor company yet not happening for Suora. That is interesting. Eastern point that exceeds with the engineers and the guardsmen, perhaps. There's still no commander for Littlesam. I mean, the longer this goes on, the more and more this just really feels like a spearhead move for Littlesam. But again, he could honestly just consider now for a mortar aspect just to back up his regular mortar with a mortar aspect, give him a lot of artillery support here versus Swara. So that could be an option, consider he's lost the Pioneers by replacing them, obviously. Thumbs up to that. Not thumbs up to losing the Pioneers, but at least replacing them promptly. And there we go. Bit of a slip up there, but Littlesam uses his machine gun too aggressively and crucially with no exit plan. Costing him the MD-42 there. Does keep it out of his opponent's hand for a while there, but the question is, can he get it out of there safely? And I think the answer to that might just be straight up 9. Good hit there. He's going to start getting his ground points here. Guardsman as well. Yeah, he's going to grab the MD-42 with the Guardsman, punishing Littlesam there for getting a bit too eager. Again, aggressive MD-42 play good, but you know, it shouldn't be like that. It should typically just be right behind your infantry. Mechanized armor company for Suora and the Red Army. You could follow up with a Stu, you go for another Panther 4, you go for an Ostwind. Obviously, you might be tempted to stall right away for the Tiger tank, but I would suggest getting out some more armor before going for that. It's typically what I always recommend. My advice is typically like 2 mediums before you try going for your big tank, basically. Or you really need to be far ahead there. Mines laid down there, thumbs up to Swara, though the positioning seems a bit suspect. Also, enough Suora's not doing much to grab Western fuel point back, by the way. Got the MD-42 being hauled back by a few guardsmen there. Grab the Eastern fuel point and Eastern victory point. We got 415 to 295. Still nothing further happening for Littlesam and the 1st Panzer Division. Bells are currently asleep right between the screen and the microphone. Victory point. Almost got the Eastern fuel point again, pedaling up there. Though without sufficient artillery support, I think this is going to be slightly questionable here for Littlesam, and he's also quick to realise this and back off. Could go for Panther 4, though again versus Guard Motor, and it's possible, you know, threat of swarms of T-35s. Getting out a bunch of Stu's may just be a lot better, honestly. In fact, it probably is. Instead, Littlesam, he is going to go and try and go for Tier 4 right now, possibly against all for the Tiger tank, while he's on the receiving end of possibly a lot of T-35s backed up with the heavy mortar and the field guns. Strategically, I would definitely not call that the best move. But, you know, again, say we assume he really wants to make that Tiger work, fine, but again, he's going to need like a more solid base first, I think, before pushing for that. And tactically, he's like, you know, at least try and put Suora a bit more on the defensive somehow. Because if, like, Suora gets out too many of those T-35s before the Tiger tank hits, then it's going to be really tough there for Littlesam to recover. So it's a bit of a tricky spot he's in here if he wants to make his strategy work. Pioneers plan to engage the guard team regular mortifying way there. What's the point? We see Gun is bringing up there. Panther taking a lot of damage. Field gun there, of course, quite the threat there to Littlesam's Panther 4. Mortar's doing good work here, which is the barrage ability, by the way. There we go, wiped it, but crucially unable to follow up on it. Unable to follow up on it. There you go, heavy Panzer course, so... Panther Sturmpanzer? I'm not entirely sure what Littlesam is playing at all. Is it a Panther, maybe? Well, guess we find out. No. We, but not Basil, because he's asleep, so obviously he won't know what's going on. Pack caught and pushed back. You just bring up there on the east side, very good. Panther 4 fixed up. Bit quiet here, but Suora's definitely got Littlesam back on the defensive, and again his plan to go here for a Panzer Corps did not seem a bit more exposed. So what is it? Sturmpanzer, Panzerwaffe, Panther? Which will it be here for Littlesam there? Going to use court there, laying down barbed wire. Cheeky Swara. It's enough, we're not seeing a T-35 there at all from him. Like, he's easily got the resources to go for one, in fact, practically two of them already, yet Swara for some reason is holding back here. Okay, there we go. Guess he just forgot about it. So, like, you know, hey, we're having fun beating these fascist assholes. Comrade, commander, yes? What about the tanks? You know, the big ones. Oh, right. And it's Littlesam going for the Sturmpanzer 4. Obviously going to hand us the infantry support weapons, but again, timing-wise, you really should be keeping in mind the possibility of T-35s and the fact that Sturmpanzer 4 is not great against them. Panther 4, they're getting hammered. Back back to lose it, which means it's going to be extra exposed to the T-35 that happens. Should probably pop Panther Spearhead now just to go for the Panther Occasion ability to pop smoke and disengage safely at least. At least now, nope, oh, what I did at least was kind of smart set up into the opposite round to the infantry to bait the guardsmen into that, at least murder them that way. So thumbs up here to Littlesam for that one at least. Thumbs up, routing them and did get some good damage in there. I didn't even catch the field and then wipe that one, honestly, yep. In fact, in setting up his rounds on the infantry are amazingly cleared out into tank weapons because, you know, it can suppress units really fast, but that actually means they take less damage. Like, that's the thing that probably isn't quite aware for a lot of people, is units take less damage while they're suppressed release for a while here. But field guns and anti-tank guns can't be suppressed, meaning the MG42 and any of the machines do full damage to them. Oh, Abandon, that's pretty lucky, except, you know, he's up against the T-35, he's got nothing to really seriously drive away with because the Sturmpanzer is not cutting it. Meanwhile, Suora's following up with another T-35. Here's again Littlesam here. Again, I'm not entirely sure why I went for it there. And particularly when he then pretty much proceeded to throw away the Panther 4 like that. That definitely feels like a slightly questionable call. Under current circumstances. Bring in another Pack 40 here to try and make it work. Meanwhile, another T-35 here for Swara. Another army. Sturmpanzer on the straight ahead here. Fun fact about the Sturmpanzer 4 was actually based off the experience of the German army in Stalingrad. Specifically, they kind of lacked something heavily armoured to clear up buildings, you know, fortified positions inside of the urban environments. In fact, they improvised a measure that actually looked very much like the Sturmpanzer 4, known as the Stu 33IB, which was based off of Panther 3, kind of armoured, bit more rough looking, less sloped armour, and had a 150mm gun as well there. So they used the Schwere Infanteriegeschütz. So, little fun fact there actually. The Sturmpanzer was just more like them going, yeah, maybe we should actually make these, you know, properly back in Germany. Sort of style solutions. So, little fun fact there about the Sturmpanzer 4. Moves to the continent east. Well, the Sturmpanzer could do some damage in the years to repair the T-35 instead going for a mortar. Decent shot there, blows Yevgeny into 1,000 pieces. 1,000 pieces, yeah? 9,000 pieces. T-35 they're damaged. Back hit reinforcing healing. Still on command of the Littlesam. I mean, at this point, it very much looks bit. They could, I suppose, it could be elite troops for the Tiger Ace. Can't rule it out at this point, but part of me would definitely still suspect Spearhead because it's just what most players will conventionally go for anyways. Pack's ready, though of course with heavy mortar there's obviously not quite so much safety behind that as he'd like it to be, in particular then the Swara follows up with the Katyusha. Though Swara has yet to sort of show such proclivities. Yeah, the Sturmpanzer. Decent shot there, of course. In actuality, the T-70 would have probably been, in a really bad spot being hit by that, as it packed a lot of, high explosives in that shell, like more than the ISU 152 did, and that thing could actually, knock out tanks with just sheer high explosive force. So, I'd imagine the Sturmpanzer 4 could do the same, and so the T-70 would, probably been just torn apart by the sheer high explosive force there. Still got some good hits in there. Left several dead Soviet infantrymen in his wake. Grenade maps have been a good investment here for Littlesam. So we have, of course, Suora. Hitting among the west is pushed up the 2 point. Then we got 356 versus 238. In the lack of something more mobile to hand armour with here for Littlesam, I think is holding him back. He's also flooding a lot of a good amount of resources. Could he be planning a Panther after all? Or is it a Tiger tank now? Or a Tiger Ace? It's really hard to say, honestly. Got the delayed fuse high explosive bombs after they hit mortar there. Note the Germans also had access to the same sort of things. They're also like higher yield mortar bombs and ones with delayed fuses. They also had one unique mortar bomb, which was actually sort of the bouncing mortar bomb. Basically what they do is they had these mortar bombs with a small smoke pellet at the very tip of it, so when it hit the ground it would bounce up again and then explode, basically creating airburst shells that way. So, little fun fact there, got Littlesam 27 mark does go for Spearhead to the surprises of, well, not too many people. Heavy mortar or mortar half-tracks, Panzer Tactician, Recon Zerflight, fragmentation bombs, and of course the Tiger tank. It's obviously the Tiger tank is going for it as the Swara. T-Philip takes a few nasty hits here. Eastern makes bomb big snipe with the Guardsman, he needs to respond to that swiftly. Sturmpanzer, 8 kills veterans who won. Continuing westwards, more to the hang back reserve, closing on a veteran fleet. Fishing in there getting hammered. Could use the bunker busting barrage, honestly. Not that it's much of a bunker to bust there, but it just makes it even easier. Fragmentation bomb here. Let's hope it calls in from the right angle. Some players will call in from their own side. The smarter ones will call in from the opponent's side, in a sense. That's it. Swara, of course, quick to react. Decent it from the Sturmpanzer. Pack 4 is moving up. Gun D's machine moving up as well there. T-Ten flanking in there. Smart play there by Swara. Forcing here Littlesam to shift attention there and pull back already. No response to the guards will grab the Eastern Victory point there. Need to fix up the Sturmpanzer Schnell. And he's closing in on that Tiger tank there. He's also having to lose infantry. Should definitely look to replace some of those losses. And Schnell is in trouble here. Need to get out of there before they get wiped out. But he's seconds away from the Tiger tank here versus Swara's 2 T-35s and the field gun. Littlesam has been able to keep alive for this long, so a Tiger tank backed up with a Sturmpanzer could be a fairly formidable assault force. Except he's a bit short on the infantry support set assault force, and the infantry will prove to be crucial. All the way, Tiger tank out for Littlesam. Thumbs up to that. Machine gun there needs to retreat. Again, making use of those delayed fuse high explosives. There, got it from the pack 4 in the T-70, constantly being hammered here by the Tiger tank, and then it's 88mm gun. Almost wiping out the entire constant squad there. The southeast, Pioneer's going to push against the Guardsman there by the eastern fuel point. Machine gun getting hammered by the Sturmpanzer 4, pack 4 moving in there. Mortar support as well, that they get overall limited support here for Littlesam's Tiger Advance. Quick marked vehicle here. Definitely forcing Littlesam to get slightly less aggressive with the Tiger tank meeting east here. I think it benefited a lot from having the Tiger tank or the Sturmpanzer there, but he was obviously more keen on pushing through the centre against Swara's main force here, hoping to deliver a crashing blow. Meanwhile, we got the Swara there with the HG5 tank destroyer. Ooh, completely misses the heavy mortars that hitting the tree line. Ooh, engineers wiped out. A great kill. In fact, Swara right now has no engineers. Almost got the field gun here. But again, the lack of sort of follow-up forces, including not bringing up the Pack 40, does force Littlesam to back off. And he still needs more infantry. Got the guns planting up. He needs to fix up the Tiger tank. Schnell. Sturmpanzer Deployment 2 getting the Schützen there added. Sehr gut.
The enemy is taking what we have secured.
Initiative 5 almost done. Machine gun almost right there. And we got the HG5 tank slot here for Swara. Yeah, Littlesam here. I feel like he's suffering from a bit too much center focus versus Swara, like he's conceding the eastern side there, and he's not even putting much pressure on the left side. He just to roll up the center constantly versus Swara. Well, that's a bit risky, but there we go. Got the Tiger tank fixed up. 10 kills, close to Veterans 1. He still, though, needs more infantry. Just 2 grenadier squads, I feel like, is cutting it a bit short here versus the Red Army. Got the T-Fed from the western side, pushing back the grenadiers. This Littlesam obviously no intention of just throwing them away. Going for the fuel point first. Fixing up the Sturmpanzer field. Tiger tank roaming a bit about. We got 10 kills still. Very quiet element here of the fight team. Littlesam obviously probably trying to figure out his next move, and Swara's just rebuilding his forces before making his move, though he's more or less at almost a full pop cap, so it's more about just reinforcing the troops he has and repairing his tanks, as his tanks have suffered rather significant damage here against the Germans. And it's obviously be very silly for him to just charge in the tanks when they're heavily damaged against the Packs and the Tiger tank. That would be effectively just throwing away the match against the Germans. Sandbags up there. Nothing further happening there. We got 322 was on 99. She would have planning for the western victory point. Telemines helps looking to slow down his Soviet assault. We got Ace by that hay mortar. I mean, it's obviously been a good investment, but again, it typically tends to be unless you don't use the abilities, like again, crucially the mortar barrage and the delayed fuse barrage. Panzer guns here for Littlesam. Thumbs up. And you could then maybe consider like a second one should cook with Panzer Shreks. I would also put them at front blue squads. I think would be a good sort of number to have. We'll have to see though what Littlesam actually does though. Looks like Swara's getting ready to make his push against Littlesam and the Germans. Littlesam there's pulling back his lines. He's getting ready to absorb the assault. He's hoped to absorb the assault, but at the same time, Swara's just creeping up the GT5, just looking to sort of slowly grind out his opponents. That's going to force Littlesam to, like, again, pull back further or line up for an actual counter attack instead. Got the Panzers out there for Littlesam and the Germans. Mark targeting the Tiger tank. Ace pack 4 being slowly rolled back. Again, we can see that he's just sort of furthest falling back there. When he rounds, he needs to like come up with a counter attack plan. Just deploying smoke for some here around. He could allow him to just charge through the smoke and catch the Swara off guard because he's kind of self-extended, but oh well. But even that I think would be tricky because again, like all the other tanks make it tough here. And his reliance on Pack 4 to deal with the tanks also makes it hard for him to use the smoke efficiently as well, actually. There you go, Panzer's actually equipping those as Panzer Shreks. Again, could be used against all this armour, though would recommend another Panzer squad just to help, you know, fight properly as infantry. And crucially, needs to like support them at the front line. He shouldn't just send them into the meat grinder like that. Sturmpanzer moving as well here. Tiger tank getting focused down pretty aggressively. Pop smoke, but he suffered so much damage. They committed, I think, before the Mark V was off, and abandoned as well. Fragmentation bomb here against Swara. Panzer, they almost got the Panzer Shrek ready. Tiger tank knocked out. Oh, the original fragmentation bomb was this one. For some reason, I thought that was the fragmentation bomb. My mistake. Yeah, lost the Tiger tank there in a, quite frankly, a bit of a pointless way. Dropped the Panzer Shrek. Need to pick that up and get out of there. Ace Pack 40 on the app, but that was definitely not a great gauge for Littlesam. Anything but. He didn't get rid of one of the T-35s. Definitely should not commit the target tank while still being marked when there was an HT5 and a field gun about there. Plus, of course, numerous T-35, so that was definitely bits up par there. But Littlesam, particularly when he's invested so many resources into the target tank, really left him out there to dry. Then he's about to get wiped out here. New troops reinforcing here, of course, and no support here for the retreating Grenadier. The Ace Pack 40 trying to deal with the T-35. Could have considered lining up a target weak point here. Oh, and he kind of did, but at the wrong time. I think right before he moved the Pack 40, which basically wasted the target weak point. That's some definitely bad luck there for Littlesam. And then crucially he's down just one Pack 40 and a pair of Panzerschrecks here with two T-35s, a T-7 and an HT5, which is definitely asking a lot of those guys. Definitely asking a lot. Basler's woken from his little nap. His little cat nap. Got the Panzers they're hiding out, or Panzerschütze. Penny's getting ready, Gunny's setting out. Heavy hitting the guardsman. The Panzerschrecks bow could have penetrated up to, I think, roughly 220 to 230 millimeters of steel, armored steel that is, homogeneously rolled steel is the term there. So, little fun fact, meaning you pretty much penetrate most tanks of the war. Panzerschreck flies, misses. And he's flanking up against the machine gun there. Diving straight up there, and crucially with no support there, making use of the T-35 to focus them down. Good hits there, taking off a fat chunk of the HT5's health, though it's probably the T-35 more than anything he wants dead. That definitely needs to retreat and bomb the grenade off against the heavy mortar crew. Gaining match since he won, but he's definitely also at the same time setting up for the target tank here versus Swara. Bit of a tough spot to be in there for Littlesam. 322 on the 24. I mean, he's definitely not too terrible either. I mean, he's actually got his opponent still failure on victory points, and Suora arguably could also be more aggressive than he actually is. At times, it does feel like Suora is also too passive, also too focused, center focused. Like, he could try and launch some flank assaults here. I think that could actually catch Littlesam off guard there as well. Bunker up in the flank here. Oh, he's going to lose the guns. He's going to be down to just the Panzerjägers then. That's going to be another problem for Littlesam. Too, his opponent still has 3 infantry squads, though Suora could also do with more infantry, though he's actually at full pop cap, so he can't. He can't go for more infantry. Basler's back to sleep. But there you go. Panzerschütze slash Panzerjägers ready there with the Raketenpanzerbüchse. aka the Offenrohr or stovepipe. He's following up there. Decent shot there. Poking down the Sturmpanzer, and there it goes. Second target tank available here for Littlesam at the 38-minute mark. Didn't get the target recon off in time. T-Pop need to be focused down here. Target tank number 2 out there. Panzerjägers moving forwards here. Smoke being deployed here. There we go. Oh, right before the telemine. They're just not moving into it. He actually should have tried to bait them into the telemine rather than far away there. I think that was a mistake with Littlesam, and probably happened. He's forgotten about his own telemine. But if he'd been able to bait those T-35s into it, boom, both of them would have damaged the engine, most likely heavily damaged, more easily to finish off with Littlesam. So definitely like very unfortunate. Now he's charging the target tank through the smoke, by the way, so he can't be supported right into every Soviet tank and anti-tank gun and tank destroyer. Finally following up with the Sturmpanzer, but at this point the target tank's already taking too much damage. There's definitely a bit of a bad call there with Littlesam, but I'm guessing he's feeling the frustration, as Suara's armoured force has proven to be quite difficult for him to crack, partly because, again, he just keeps attacking up a very small, narrow arc of terrain, which makes it easy for the field gun HT5 and the T-35 just to focus them down. Like, he's not using a lot of the rest of the map here, and he's certainly not using smoke particularly efficiently either, so I think if Littlesam were to, like, you know, concoct a better assault, I think he had a much better chance to deliver a more serious blows there to Suora. So far, Littlesam is very much center focus there. Oh, and the Pack 4's caught the worst time they're in position. Got the Panzers moving up there. Shoots at the wrong target, he's pressed with aim for tooling the Tiger tank, the pack, and the Sturmpanzer on fate. That is about as terrible as you can get here for Littlesam. Won't be able to join the fight. The pack falls around the upper noob. We've got smoke being deployed here. Most of the, to try and get this Sturmpanzer, but it doesn't work. We've got the gap being pinned down here. Tiger tank. Small sliver of health left there. Almost got the T-35 there. Actually, 2 more packs being deployed. Got the T-35 there. Guards from the unsuppressed. Mortar wiped. The HD almost got the Tiger tank knocked out. Main gun knocked. Panzerjägers pinned down. Now, it's a complete disaster for Littlesam and the German army. Another hit and the Tiger tank's about to go down here. Wasn't able to get rid of the other T-35 that. The Tiger tank is out. A comedy of tactical errors here by Littlesam. Ultimately allowed Swara to just pierce his lines and crush him. That was definitely a bit awkward then with that. The Soviets stand triumphant here with the Germans. A brutal fight here between Littlesam and Swara. In the end though, Swara, despite, being significantly behind in victory points compared to Littlesam, was just, I think, tactically a bit more prudent ultimately. I didn't think Littlesam had a chance, but tactically just kind of making all these weird mistakes. And he also, failed to provide enough infantry as the game went on. And I also feel like, he just mishandled a lot of his armour. So there you go. At this point, I think conceded. So GG, game over. A victory for Swara, a loss for Littlesam. Hope you enjoyed this match. I learned something from it. If you did, subscribe, like, share, comment on it. Tell friends, tell family, but don't tell enemies. And this is Imperial Links, cheers. Thank you for watching. Till tomorrow again for a nice episode. Bye.